Hey everyone, it's a really bright sunny day here in southern Arizona, which means I'm making money off this sun, generating power from the sun and is selling it back to utility company, which is making me some money. Everyone should get solar if you can, and I'm gonna go through this right now. Follow me on this journey of getting solar. Hey everyone, so today I'm going to go over why you need to get solar panels this year in 2019. And here to help me explain it, we've got Dan from Sunbright Solar. So first, I think people want to know, what are the benefits of getting solar? Why should they get it?
Yeah, I think that the first thing is that we're always looking for a better option for where we get power, and I think that that's even more emphasized when you become an EV owner, because not only are you powering your home, but you're now powering your automobile via electricity. So obviously, in a lot of areas where we don't have deregulated utilities, solar provides another option that is definitely beneficial, environmentally friendly. It does also, increase the home values in which you install solar, because statistically these things last a very long time and people move. So as far as a home improvement project, it holds its value really well. I would also say that there is subsidies currently available, which a lot of Tesla owners have taken advantage of, and this is another way that we can subsidize some of the things we're doing here. Both furthering our automobiles and furthering our homes and our electrical usage.
On average, how long does it take? I know it's probably different from state to state, depending upon cost of utilities, but how long does it take to pay off a system, an average system?
I would say it really depends on what you get as far as quality and the subsidies available for you in your state or by your utility region and how well they meter it. But typically I would say it's about a 7 to 10 year payback, all things considered. It obviously depends on if you financed it or if you paid cash for it and the quality of equipment and things like that. And then just your ability as a consumer to shop around for it can have a big effect on the price that you actually pay.
Okay. So net metering rate will have a huge impact as well.
Net metering is a rate structure that has historically been associated with solar, but those have been modified in recent years, often known as export rates and things like that. But there's some form of either net metering or export rate in just about all parts of the country. Net metering is usually a net basis, so they sell you power, you essentially put them on there, and it's a credit system, and then once a year they buy it out for you. That does vary state by state. All net metering policies are not the same, but that is the general concept of net metering. In Arizona, we've gone away from net metering with rate structure changes and mass adoption, which is, common in other states now. That's happening on a national level. So just because you don't have net metering doesn't necessarily mean it's not advantageous to you. It does change some things, and you do want to look at the dynamics and how that works and the rate structure and everything that's going to get you on board. And so it's really a case-by-case basis, and the best way to do that is a website called Desire, DSIRE, and that's a national database of incentives that are available, and you can check regionally what's going on. So the first thing to do is, look at your home and make sure that you have a suitable application for solar. And then second, see what your subsidies are available in your region, and then start exploring the contractors and really dive into the equipment and what you're looking for as far as a solar system.
Yeah. So for me, it's going to be profitable because the way I went with it is I did the loan. And the 12-year loan, the payment on the 12-year loan is less than what my utility bill is going to be each month. And when you average it out, I have money in my pocket each month with no money down.
Definitely.
So it seemed to work out.
Yeah, no money down is a very common thing in the solar system industry, and the idea that solar is expensive while, total cost can definitely give you some shell shock. The truth is, if you can afford a utility bill, you can usually afford a solar payment, because in reality, what you're doing is you're kind of cost shifting. You're paying for a solar payment that eventually will go away depending on the length you subscribed for it, where utilities really don't go away. Those rates are ever increasing with inflation. So the biggest misconception I see is that I can't afford solar. If you have decent credit and you can afford your utility bill, chances are you can afford solar as well.
Right, absolutely. So there's no real excuse not to go solar.
There's sometimes is an excuse not to go solar, but it's much lower than most people think. It is under adopted for what it should be, especially in specific regions of the country. Obviously, if you live in northern Alaska, that dynamic is going to change a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of the United States, solar still can work for you. I would point to Germany, which gets far less sunlight than the States do, but they have a mass adoption on a per capita basis for solar.
So I have a question about how solar works, and not only how it works, but anything else that may impact it, like temperature. Here we can get super, super hot days of like 120 degrees. Does that affect it? Or even if you had cold days when it's freezing outside, does the temperature affect it in addition to the amount of light it's getting? How's that work?
Yes, in solar, everything has an effect. So I'll go ahead and start with how it works. We've got solar panels, which, when exposed to sunlight, cause the photovoltaic effect, which is photons hitting the cells, and it creates a DC current, which is then combined with other solar panels and routed through an inverter. It also performs other functions such as monitoring of the solar system, but basic function is that it's going to take DC and convert it to AC for alternating current use in our homes, and then it's usually routed to our electrical service panel, where it can then be absorbed instantaneously by the house, with excess energy being sent onto the grid for compensation, whether that be via net metering or an export rate of some kind. When it comes to how the temperature affects it, generally heat and electronics don't mix too well. So the hotter it gets, actually, the lower they perform. But you also have to realize that, like here in Arizona, where we're at, yes, we have a very hot climate, but we also have a very sunny climate, and solar does love sunlight. So while it doesn't like heat, it loves sunlight, and the difference is that in the middle of the summer, our days are so elongated that our production goes up. So, I say everything has an effect on solar panels. That's why we don't mount them directly to roofs, because we can transfer that heat to the house. You always see them slightly elevated off the roofs.
So there's an advantage to being up because you get airflow.
That's right.
And it keeps them cooler.
Yeah, so solar panels definitely heat up as they produce power. It's not uncommon that if it's 100 degrees outside that you could take the temperature of a solar panel and it'll operate somewhere around 150 plus degrees, because byproduct of generating electricity is heat. So where that plays into effect is something called the temperature coefficient. That is how much it will lose per degree outside of test conditions. So when solar panels are rated, like yours, I believe, are 360 watts, that's a STC, or standard test conditions, which is in a laboratory, and that is 25 Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So what does it produce at 150 degrees? Well, you take the difference, which in this case is 73 degrees, and you multiply by the temperature coefficient. You can find those on a data sheet, which is something you should look into if you're exploring different options in terms of solar panels. But that'll tell you how well it does. Takeaway is that the lower the temperature coefficient, the better the panel is. However, best of the best comes with premium pricing. So, it's a dynamic into what solar panel you choose. You should definitely look at multiple installers and what they recommend. Take their advice, and also take their advice with a grain of salt, because everybody has the best when they sit down with you, right? So
Right.
Some of it is on the homeowners to kind of decide, but plenty of resources out there that can definitely help you. I always say data sheets don't lie, salesmen do, so definitely use that as a resource, as well as good old Google will help you out by finding the data sheets, and other resources like Energy Sage and different online solar reviews is another good resource for you as well.
So we're going to go look at the components of what's involved in this system. What are the other things that they're looking for? The panels, that's important, and inverters. Are they all the same, basically the same? Are they different? Some better than others?
That's a great question. Everybody wants to hyper-focus on solar panels, which is definitely something you should consider, but there's really 3 to 4 main aspects of a solar system. One being, of course, the solar panels, and those definitely need to be scrutinized. Second being the racking system. I would put a lot less emphasis on the racking systems. They're all performing the same function about equally well. And then also the inverter, or the inverter technology, which is commonly overlooked in the thought process of deciding to go solar and looking into it. So 3 basic technologies, the original being what we call a string inverter, where all the panels are wired in series together, thus making 10 panels one. Those inverters tend to have a lower lifespan and a lower efficiency. Efficiency is kind of the name of the game when it comes to inverters, because the different inverter technologies will get you a better kilowatt hour harvest out of watts of a solar system. So the inverter plays a key role in the ratio of watts on a roof or on a ground mount or what have you to kilowatt hour generation, which is what we're building and what we're used. So the original was a string inverter. They have a lower upfront cost and a lower life expectancy. SMA or Sunny Boy is a very popular brand name. After that came out a microinverter. Those are a miniaturized inverter. They've digitized a lot of those properties, so much more efficient. Does well with shading and other things, but it is one inverter per panel. So they do have some downsides, especially in the southern Arizona climate. What I really like, and what is actually kind of the industry leader in inverter technology, is something called Solar Edge. That's known as a DC optimized system. And those actually have a combination of both the previous technologies, the microinverters and the string inverter. It's really kind of a marriage of the two technologies, but at the end, they are the most efficient technology that's currently out on the market. They're also the leader in ancillary technology integration, such as batteries or electric vehicle chargers. And they also have a high level of insights in their monitoring system, which is, you know, kind of one of the features of a solar system. Once the installer's gone, what do you have as a homeowner to reference back to? Well, that's definitely the monitoring, and theirs allows for a high level of insight, what we call module level electronics or module level viewing, so you can see each individual panel and what it's doing. And we also offer home consumption monitoring kits. Usually that's not a standard option, but home consumption allows us to see what's going on in the house as well as what's going on in our solar, so that we can make some adjustments and utilize our power better.
Okay, so we're on the roof. Here are the panels.
Yep.
What are we looking at?
Is a bunch of panels laid out on a roof. When we put them on a roof, they're always usually on a rail-based system. So as you can see, these are the panels here. This is the rail system. In this case, we're using a product called Unirack, which is a universal racking system. They're out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. They mount on a rail system, which has these clips which slide into these channels here and allow us to hold the panels, but what they are also holding is all the wires underneath them. Solar systems do have a very large quantity of wires, so they are usually wired into each other. These systems have something called a power optimizer, which allows us to harvest power and see what's going on the individual panel level. Not all solar systems have that, but it's definitely one of the benefits of the Solar Edge technology. So each panel is harvesting power almost independently of each other. That power is then being sent through wires, which passes through under conduit that is getting it from point A to point B on a roof. One thing I would point out here is that we did rack these up slightly, and this allows Wade here to service his roof so that over time you can get access to the roof and coat it if need be and just be able to see. Second to that, we also are not trying to transfer the heat that these solar panels are going to make to the home for energy efficiency purposes. So we have these panels here in different groupings known as strings, and then those strings head down to the inverter, which is where a lot of the magic happens.
So I've got a question. What are we looking at with these panels?
Well, you're looking at a bunch of solar cells, and inside, if you follow the wires, they're going underneath and then above, underneath and above, and that is what we call series wiring. So those wires are just pulling the power off these silica cells as the sunlight hits it. So these are a whole lot of little watch batteries just combined, making large amount of watts.
This is a cell. That's here. Correct. So that's one cell, and in that cell, those are wires?
Yeah, they're essentially wires.
Tiny
like
wires.
You would find on a computer board. So tab wires here. So what consists of a panel is the glass on top, the silicone cells, which is where the magic happens, the wiring that's conducting the power off of it, and then outside on the back side through big wires, which is where they're going to join into their buddies. You then have a frame here, followed by glass on the front and what we call a back sheet on the back, which is just a laminate sheet that's going to encapsulate this so that the elements don't get into it and exacerbate degradation.
Okay. And here's a good view of the racks. And this must be a connection box.
Yep, that is a junction box where all the wires from the different groupings of panels are combining and then headed back to the inverter. As you can see, it is a DC power source still, so that has special labeling, which is why they get those red stickers there.
Okay, and this will track all the way back. And then down to the panel. Okay, so here's where it's coming down from the roof. And there we have the inverter. What are we looking at there?
Well, right here on the inverter is a DC disconnect switch. So this connects the DC up top and is the way we would shut it down in case we ever needed to do maintenance. Up here is the display screen, which lucky Mr. Wade here is actually getting an inverter with the display screen. They're going to be phasing those out, but that shows us what's going on. We have voltage AC on the left, which is usually somewhere around 240 here in America. Voltage DC, peak conversion efficiency for these inverters is right around 380, 390 volts. And then you have PACW, which is power AC watts. That's what's being converted instantaneously. It's just over 1,000 at the moment. And then you can see that it says POK, which is telling us that it's working okay and that the panels reporting and the panels detected are both at 28, which is a good thing because Waze has 28 panels here. And SOK means it's synced up and speaking okay via the internet. And of course the status is on. At nighttime it'll read out night mode. There's more settings in there that you could get in display, but really the best place to get all that information is the monitoring app. So after that, it's going to travel now alternating current or usable power AC, and it's going to come over and go through two things over here. This first one being what we call a solar meter, or what I refer to as the total generation meter. This is going to start from 0 and go upwards, so definitely increasing as the time goes on. And then this one right below it is an AC disconnect. In different areas of the country, these will be swapped in position. No big deal. They both do the same thing. But if this house were to ever catch on fire, this is an active power plant, and you don't want to spray water to a power plant that's on fire. So throw it, and it'll turn off instantaneously. These inverters are also equipped with something called rapid shutdown, meaning it'll shut down in under 30 seconds from the time you tell it to stop. So de-energizes quite quickly. The only other component that you would see out here, right here, is the home consumption metering box. This allows us to see what's going on inside the home. And then right here in the solar, or in the main panel, is where we're actually putting power back into the home's electric system. So up on the very top there, it is a solar breaker, which is actually this one up here. That's the 40 amp, that's where the solar is. And then over here, this is monitoring breakers right there. So
and
that is basically what it is.
Here,
that is a convenience outlet. Sometimes we install those so that we can adapt a power line adapter to it and communicate this to wherever the router is inside the home. So this allows us to get the signal from the solar over to the home's router so that it can be beamed up to servers, and so we can see it wherever we are at. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Some use a Zigbee protocol or Z-Wave. We have found that power line adapters is much more reliable and faster, so no delays in getting our information.
here we go. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, thanks for watching. I know there's a lot of information in there, so hope you learned a little something about solar. I sure did. I didn't know hardly anything about it, and I learned a lot going through this process. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Please click subscribe up here somewhere. All right, thank you.